හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Sunday the 31st of December 2023. Debt repayment. Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says external debt repayments at lower rates will begin next year. War and peace. Veteran public servant Austin Fernandez says the LTT was not accommodative of peace during the ceasefire agreement. Tourism recovery. Sri Lanka sets high tourism targets for 2024 as the sector sets eyes on surpassing 2018 arrivals with a gradual recovery of the sector this year. The monsoon. Inclement weather owing to the northeastern monsoon continues today. Floods reported island-wide.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
නියම මෝල්ට් සාරය සමග මැලිබන් මෝල්ට් දැන් රුපියල් 750ක් පමණයි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to AdaDerana First at 9. I'm AdaDerana joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now, in your top story tonight, ending 2023 on a positive economic development, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says Sri Lanka's debt repayment at much lower rates will begin after agreements are inked with the commercial creditors of the country, probably within the first half of next year. Further, the Central Bank Governor expressed confidence in achieving positive levels of economic growth next year, adding that the country is already on the path of economic recovery.
We are in the recovery path. This is evident from the fact that already Q3 has turned around to 1.6% positive growth compared to 6 consecutive negative growth that we experienced during the crisis. So it's an indication that we are moving in the right direction. We need a positive growth path that will certainly continue from next year in Q4 and next year onwards, which means there will be easier conditions and more better environment for people to do, and economic activities will be coming back to normal, which will increase the living standards and people's incomes going forward. Obviously, there will be challenges in terms of taxes. There will be higher taxes for certain sectors and certain people. The whole purpose of higher taxation is to give relief for people who are worst affected because of the crisis, and they should be supported through social safety nets, and that money should be appropriately used to support the economy, support health, education, social safety net, and address all the issues. So going forward, in my view, next year we can expect much better economic conditions, especially with lower interest rates and less borrowings by the government from the market. There will be more resources available for private sector to do businesses.
The IMF said that the second wave will be within the first half of next year. So do we have any other measures that has to be implemented before that?
Most important immediate step is to come into an agreement in principle with commercial creditors, holders of interest sovereign bonds. That will complete the restructuring process. That will raise our sovereign ratings to a higher level. That will make access to markets by the private sector. We are hoping that we can reach that soon.
When will Sri Lanka begin the debt repayment process?
Once we reach agreement in principle, there's the next procedural thing is to sign in agreements, exchange commercial-based bonds or sign loan agreements. After the signing those agreements, will government start repaying debt at a much lower rate, like lower debt service payments, low interest payments, the kind of the grace period. That all will start once we sign agreements, so most probably within first half of next year, hopefully.
Now, perpetuating the recent trend of inclement weather, several areas of the country received torrential rainfall today as well. As water levels of some of Sri Lanka's largest reservoirs continued to rise, authorities took steps to release excess water, which at times inconvenienced traffic along key roads of the country. Now, let's follow some of the latest weather updates in the country.
With the activation of the northeast monsoon, many areas in the country are experiencing heavy rains. Due to the overflowing of the Mahavali River, many low-lying areas are still underwater. The surrounding areas of the Somavati sacred area in Polonnaruwa continued to remain submerged due to the continuous heavy rains, and with the help of Sri Lanka Air Force, essentials were brought to the area. In the the meantime, due to a landslide, road has been closed near Hasalaka Police Security Post in the Kandy Mahayangana Road, while the road has been further disrupted due to landslides at several places in the Ududumbara Kahagolla area. Meanwhile, due to the rains, many reservoirs are also being drained and 12 spill gates of Rajangane Reservoir have been opened. All sluice gates of Victoria Reservoir were opened last night. Anguma Reservoir sluice gates are still open. In the meantime, the water capacity of the Senanayaka Samudra Reservoir is also increasing. Due to the spilling of the Kondu Wattavana Reservoir, traffic on the Iginiagal Road has been disrupted. Due to the opening of 10 sluice gates at Parakrama Samudra Reservoir, the traffic on Polonnaruwa Batiklo Main Road has been disrupted. Meanwhile, Met Department says that rains or thunder showers are expected to occur in Ampara, Batiklo, Polonnaruwa, Matale, Nuwara and Hambantota districts, as well as Western, Sabaragama, South and Nuwa provinces during the day.
Now, meanwhile, veteran public servant Austin Fernandez says that the ceasefire agreement signed between the Sri Lankan government and the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam in 2002 was an extension of an agreement between former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga and LTTE leader Velupille Prabhakaran in 1995. Joining at Hyde Park with Indivari Amuatta on AdaDerana 24, former Secretary to the President Austin Fernandez says amid the accumulation of local and international pressure, the LTTE also agreed to sign the ceasefire, although the terrorist organization was clearly not accommodative of the peace process. Reminiscing an incident which could have had catastrophic implications for Sri Lanka, Austin Fernandez recalled a conversation that he had with the Navy when Karuna Amman, the then second in command of the LTTE, was caught by the Navy while he was violating the ceasefire agreement.
Where did the discussion about a ceasefire agreement come to the administrative service?
What happened was 5th of January 1995, if I remember right. President Kumaratunga had an agreement with Prabhakaran. I have not seen any document where her signature is, but I have seen a letter that had been published by the President's office. She was for peace. She wanted to have peace.
President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga wanted peace.
Wanted peace. She genuinely wanted peace. She came to some sort of agreement. She was agreeable to various concessions to be given to these people. She was agreeable. With that background, when Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe became the Prime Minister, he also would have thought, you can carry on with this. I think at the same time for the LTT, they were hunted down. You know, they knew that their situation in the foreign countries and even here will not be that easy. So they also would like to have a little bit of lull in the approach to their war making. So it matched very well for Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe. He was in a bad shape here in the economy and things like that. On the other hand, in the meantime, the intermediaries came in, that is the Norwegians came in, and Norwegians were working with Mrs. Kumaratunga also earlier. So therefore, it's a matter of generally shifting from one place to other place with the same people around. The ceasefire agreement is a correct step, but the military trained and they were the people who were getting hit everywhere. So therefore, you can't change the mindset of people just because you have a ceasefire.
Was it the most patriotic thing to do at the time?
As a public servant, I am expected to carry on, as a secretary, I am expected to carry on the policy of the government. And sometimes the policy, I may differ in my own thinking about the policy, but if you want to do that job, you have to carry on. Otherwise, you chuck up and go home. That's a different story. So what happened was, when I was working with them, I found that the LTT was not that accommodative of the peace process. They were trying to score a point with everything. Then they didn't show that they were going through a peace process to become friends. And then they were breaking rules, regulations also. Now, in the agreement, there's something to say that we can't move around. But they were moving around. And this was done not only by the cadres, even leadership of the LTT was doing that. I remember when one day when I was secretary, Karuna Amman, he came and asked, we had an agreement, rules of engagement. That was to say that if they want to go from one place to another place by sea, they had to inform me 48 hours earlier through the Sri Lanka Monitoring Mission. Right. So one day, Tronfur Hade came and told me that Karuna Amman wanted to go from one place to another place. I said, yes, he can go after 48 hours, he can go. That's a rule of engagement that had been agreed upon between Prabhakaran and us. And then he said, no, he wants to go today. I said, no, 24 hours. Because when you say 48 hours, there's a reason for that. We used to to tell the Navy, you come and cover the area so that nothing happens in between which is detrimental to the peace process or to the government state. And in the middle of the night, I get a telephone call saying that they have caught and they were going to kill. Then they asked me. I said, no, don't. Then they said, no, they are violating the ceasefire agreement. I said, yes. The reason was that Navy officer is doing the right thing. But then if you attack Karunaman, who was considered number 2 at that time, there wouldn't have been a ceasefire agreement thereafter. There would have been so many bombs. So I had to be thinking in terms of the big picture.
Now in other local news, a total of 20,797 suspects were arrested over drug-related crimes cumulatively over 14 days, during which time the Yuktiya special campaign was operational. Apart from the arrests made, another 189 individuals were directed for rehabilitation. Meanwhile, 10 suspects were arrested yesterday in Panadura with 10 grams and 830 milligrams of methamphetamine in their possession. Now let's follow the latest attempts by the police to curb the spread of narcotics island-wide.
The Yuktiya special operation carried out to curb the island-wide distribution of narcotics continued today for the 14th day. During today's operations, a suspect with over 1 kilograms of methamphetamine and 500 grams of gold had been apprehended by the Police Narcotics Bureau in the Matale area. Further investigations revealed property owned by the suspect, which include a residence in Matale and a 5-acre tea estate, collectively estimated to be worth more than 100 million rupees. Meanwhile, operations executed in northern part of Panadura under the Yuktiya special operation led to the apprehension of 10 suspects yesterday. Among the arrestees was a suspect with 10 grams and 830 milligrams of methamphetamine in possession. The police further revealed that a portable drug scale was also recovered in the possession of the suspect. In Pudukudirippu, meanwhile, a suspect with 50 milligrams of methamphetamine in his possession was taken into custody by the Pudukudirippu police station. The suspect was identified as a 22-year-old resident of the same area. In addition, the Pallevela police station arrested an employee of the Colombo Municipal Council along with 3 grams of hashish. The apprehension was made in Kalleliya area in Meerigama. Concurrently, during a raid operation conducted in the Vellabaya area, a suspect along with 45 rounds of 9mm live ammunition and 600 milligrams of methamphetamine was taken into police custody. Accordingly, a total of 20,797 suspects have been arrested over drug-related crimes by the Sri Lanka police together with the police special task force during 14-day-long Yuktiya special operation. The total market value of the seized narcotics is estimated to be over 858 million rupees. Further, 189 suspects have been directed for rehabilitation.
Now, 2023 was an eventful year with many ups and downs. Now let's rewind the clock and relive 2023 as we step into 2024.
On the 12th of January, the Supreme Court unanimously issued a ruling stating that former President Maithripala Sirisena and 4 officials of the defence sector violated the constitutional duty to protect the citizens of the country by failing to prevent the Easter Sunday attack. In January 2023, the International Federation of Football Association imposed a temporary ban on Sri Lanka's membership. Now on the 15th of February, electricity tariffs were increased by a staggering 66%, adding to the already severe economic woes suffered by Sri Lankans. In March, meanwhile, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund approved the extended fund facility for Sri Lanka, providing much-needed financial assistance to the economically ailing nation. Accordingly, Sri Lanka received the first tranche of the IMF valued at $330 million. On the economic front, the resolution for the implementation of the IMF agreement in Sri Lanka, which was tabled in Parliament, was passed with 95 votes on the 28th of April. Moving on to the month of June, 296 people died and more than 1,200 people were injured in a tragic train accident in the eastern state of Odisha in India on the second day of the month. The medical staff of the Army Hospital in Colombo set a Guinness record on the 14th of June by removing the world's largest and heaviest kidney stone through a major surgery performed on the 1st of June. On the 18th of June, the submarine named Titan, which embarked on a journey to explore the shipwreck of the Titanic in the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, suddenly disappeared. It was later reported that the submarine imploded due to extreme underwater pressure. In September, meanwhile, the National Fuel Pass system, which was implemented island-wide, was eliminated on the first day of the month. Meanwhile, causing international concern and bringing death and misery to so many, Israel-Hamas tensions erupted on the 7th of October 2023. Sri Lanka's greatest cricket fan, Percy Abesekara, affectionately known as Uncle Percy, bid farewell to Sri Lanka at the age of 87 on the 30th of October. Meanwhile, adding yet another title to their already decked ODI record, the Australian team managed to win the ICC Men's ODI World Cup for the 6th time.
Now, Sri Lanka is currently recovering from the effects of an unprecedented economic crisis. After 3 years of low tourist arrivals due to several external and internal shocks, tourist arrivals have picked up this year, and so far the number has passed 1.4 million arrivals. In time to come, the focus of the government will be on attracting at least 5 million tourists, which includes 2.5 million high-end tourists. The question is on how to achieve those numbers. Here's a brief report by AdaDerana's Chamud Fernando.
2018 can be considered the best year for Sri Lanka in terms of tourist arrivals. During the year 2018, 2.3 million tourists arrived in Sri Lanka. The number, however, reduced by 400,000 to 1.9 million tourists in 2019 due to the Easter Sunday attacks. 2020, 2021 and 2022 can be considered some of the darkest years for Sri Lanka tourism due to the economic crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. In 2023, the numbers started to pick up, and during the first 11 months of 2023, over 1.2 million tourists arrived in Sri Lanka. Now, better plans are set for the year 2024. But what's important is attracting high-end tourists with a better purchasing power. After the 3 tough years of heavy blows to the industry in 2020, 2021 and 2022, Sri Lanka tourism began to pick up, showcasing with minimal efforts. Despite the ongoing hardships, the arrivals target set for this year is 1.55 million tourists. According to Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority statistics, over 100,000 tourist arrivals have been reported every month during the past 11 months this year, except in May. Until November this year, $1.8 billion of foreign exchange has been earned. This is an $800 million increase compared to the corresponding period of 2022. The operation of more charter flights and cruise ships to Sri Lanka fueled the number of arrivals. Travel magazines and websites such as Condé Nast, Big 7 Travel and Forbes too promoted Sri Lanka as one of the finest travel destinations in the world. November recorded the best month this year with 151,496 arrivals. 143,039 were recorded in July, while 136,405 tourists arrived in Sri Lanka during the month of August. During December this year, Sri Lanka has so far welcomed over 200,000 tourists, which stands as the highest number of monthly tourist arrivals recorded during the past 4 years.
Overall, we might end the year with about 1,495,000 tourists, about 5,000 short of the target that we had set.
Country-wise, India continues to be Sri Lanka's largest market, while Russia is the second largest. The United Kingdom, Germany and China were the third, fourth and fifth largest markets for Sri Lanka tourism, respectively. In the upcoming year 2024, the industry expects to attract 2.3 million tourists with a maximum target of reaching 2.5 million, and in the time to come, Sri Lanka aims to attract 5 million tourists a year with more focus towards tourists who can generate more foreign exchange earnings for Sri Lanka. While highlighting the need to attract at least 2.5 million high-end tourists a year, President Ranil Wickremesinghe directed officials in August to accelerate their efforts through comprehensive plans that can enhance Sri Lanka's appeal and provide comfort to tourists.
The air seat capacity into Sri Lanka is of concern, on which we are working, and also we are working on charter operations to come into Sri Lanka from China. Markets such as Australia, Japan, South Korea and even the European markets has greater potential for Sri Lanka. Germany is a market that could easily generate 190 to 200,000 tourists for a year to Sri Lanka. So we are working hard on these markets. Jaffna or Palale has been another gateway to Sri Lanka for the Indian traffic. The ferry service is due to commence operations rather fast. It's behind schedule right now. With that, Jaffna Peninsula will develop and the traffic will also filter into the eastern province.
In terms of tourism promotion, a series of initiatives are already launched and expected to be launched next year to achieve these targets, including the attraction of high-end tourists and promoting Sri Lanka as one of the finest tourist destinations in the whole of South Asia.
For 2024, there are a lot of plans. We are going to launch the biggest global campaign that tourism has seen for Sri Lanka after about 15-16 years. That's very important. And this campaign will come out in March. And at the same time, we are going to do a lot of other projects in different countries, taking the country forward in terms of travel fairs, trade fairs, and road shows in key markets such as India, China, UK, France, Germany, Australia, Korea, Japan, Middle East. As another plan, we are going to start an influencer program to bring influencers and do a digital marketing campaign as well. And we are going to do a above the line advertising campaign with major news networks like tourist channels and all that with our key markets.
As far as Slido members are concerned, we go out and market the destination overseas. The membership is very positive. In fact, we had over 70 odd companies that were represented at World Travel Market in London in November. The feedback was very good from overseas operators and customers in general. We will continue doing what we do, which is promoting the destination.
In the South Asian region alone, island nations like the Maldives have become a bucket list destination for tourists with high spending power. Sri Lanka is also an island with some of the finest beaches in whole world, breathtaking views, lush mountains, wildlife, wellness, rolling surf, fun trains, famous tea and flavorful food, and goes beyond to offer hospitality like no other. However, industry stakeholders believe there is a lot that needs to be done.
4 years of no tourists have put the hotels into very bad shape. They require capital infusion. So we will require some kind of low interest rate loans or some kind of assistance to sustain this industry, which can help the economic revival of this country. At the same time, we believe that government will give some kind of assistance by at least giving some concession on the electricity rates and also helping the hotels to reschedule their loans for a longer period. All hospital industry stakeholders are confident that if no bad thing happen in this country for the next 2 to 3 years, we will be able to get out of this economic crisis that we have faced totally.
As a foreign income earner, we have made a contribution to the local economy. We are the second largest foreign exchange earner for the economy, and these numbers will only increase in time to come. Definitely, we are looking forward to better times, and as the SLTDA, we look forward to working with the stakeholders with greater collaboration, and we look forward to their support in positioning Sri Lanka as one of the key destinations in the minds of the traveller to the South Asian region.
With better policy and implementation, Sri Lanka can be made one of the finest tourist destinations for high-end tourists, not only in South Asia, but in the entire world.
Now in other business news, Sri Lanka's construction industry activity shrank in the month of November to 44.3 index points due to the low level of new projects and the decline in work related to ongoing projects. A latest report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka said that the survey showed that new orders declined at a higher pace in November compared to the previous month. However, many respondents to the survey expect an acceleration in awarding of projects, especially government-funded projects, in the first half of the next year. Further, the survey showed a contraction in employment as the companies tend to operate with minimum staff under the current industry situation. The industry outlook for the next 3 months is positive, mainly in anticipation of the increased demand from the next year, together with favorable weather conditions. However, firms are concerned about the upward tendency in material prices due to the announced tax revisions. Now in your latest corporate developments, Lanka Milk Foods PLC announced the transfer of all ordinary shares owned by the company in 4 of its subsidiaries to another fully owned subsidiary of the company, Lanka Dairies Private Limited. Meanwhile, Ambient Capital PLC announced the cessation of an alternate director of the company with effect from the 22nd of December this year. With that, let's take a look at our corporate news segment for the evening. The Board of Directors of Lanka Milk Foods PLC has transferred ordinary shares owned by the company in 4 of its subsidiaries to Lanka Dairies Private Limited, a fully owned subsidiary of Lanka Milk Foods PLC. The decision was made pursuant to a proposal to restructure the group of companies under Lanka Milk Foods PLC for the purpose of streamlining the ownership and operational structure of the companies. Further, the related party transaction carried out between Lanka Milk Foods PLC and Lanka Dairies Private Limited will amount to 5,010 million rupees, and the transaction was considered effective on the 29th of December 2023. In the meantime, Ambient Capital PLC announced the cessation of an alternate director of the company recently. Accordingly, A.L. Devasundara has revoked his alternate R.T. Devasundara on the board of Ambient Capital PLC with effect from the 22nd of December 2023. In its corporate disclosure, the company further stated that R.T. Devasundara did not hold any shares of the company as at the date of his cessation as an alternate director. In other corporate news, issuing a circular regarding the CSE's holidays for the year 2024, the CSE announced a customary holiday tomorrow on the 1st of January 2024, after which the CSE will be open for trade on Tuesday, the 2nd of January. As per the circular issued, the Colombo Stock Exchange informed the general public of 23 holidays slated in throughout the entirety of the next year. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of AdaDerana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.adaderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit AdaDerana.lk.